Happy to be with you today. Let's take a look at first how we will determine a conference champion. 3 dual meets, like we said. The first will be a match between the number 17 ranked NYU Violets against the number 24 ranked team in the nation, the University of Chicago. That's set to get underway shortly. And then after that, Case Western Reserve University will face the winner of that first bout. And then match number 3 will be the winner of match number 1 against Case. Each match will be separated by about a half hour's time. Last year, Chicago was the UAA team champion, taking away a title that had belonged to NYU for the last 6 years running. We'll start this match with the 174 weight class.
Yep.
Then Saracen will wrestle for Chicago.
I think
Izaki Zuckerman.
Yeah, I believe this is a matchup of 2 true freshmen. Basically started off, so see which one helps to get their team off to a good start as we go. So just in case you're tuning in or new to the sport, college wrestling, 7 minutes, 3 periods. First period, 3 minutes, start neutral. Decision at the second period, two 2-minute periods for the second and third period.
And for those of you watching at home, we will have a scorebook. There you see it in the top right. You'll see the individual score for the individual match at the top. That's your standard basketball scoreboard.
Gets that leg, he's still fighting. I don't think no points awarded yet. You got a takedown on the edge, and there you go. So that's 2 points for a takedown. Going to get right to work on top over the NYU. I believe it's Isaac, right?
Izaki Zuckerman.
So, and get escape for 1 point, so takedown.
Chicago, by the way, is the home team. So you see Chicago score in the top left, NYU in the top right, and the team score will be kept at the bottom. So bottom left and right where you'd normally see fouls on the basketball scoreboard.
So, both wrestlers, kind of filling each other out, getting to their shots, moving. It's always tough to start out within an hour weigh-in sometimes if you're down there. Another good shot to that leg there by Saracen. Oh, good fight off by Zuckerman.
Like you said, a matchup of a couple of true
freshmen.
There
it is, a reshot, right? Reshot, that's what you have to do, come back in there. So. Yeah, I know Saracen has a little bit on his background. He's an Iowa kid, and I believe he came in with some UAA All-American or AA credentials in the freestyle or Greco arena. So,
out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and J.F. Kennedy High School.
That's a nice little clearing. You got to clear those arms and shot right in there for that double, right to the mat. And now he's got that leg in for a Turk to expose the back. So again, 2 points for a takedown. 4-1 Saracen leading over Zuckerman.
Saracen with a win via fall in his last match against Clem Martin of Augustana, Fargo All-American.
So here we go. He's looking for that bar. So this is always critical towards the end of a period, right? You kind of want to keep the momentum. You want to, if your opponent lets up, you want to try to score. And obviously, Zuckerman on the bottom is trying to basically get to his base, get out, try to get a point. So 15 seconds left in the first period, and we got some blood. So
we'll clean that up. By the way, introducing you to our officials for today. Chris Loudermilk is the gentleman that is in the center of the ring, our head referee today. He's joined by Deke Gonzalez and Jason Robinson. There's a good look at Chris. 15.5 seconds left in the first period of match number 1 today. We'll start, like we said, at the 174 weight class. Both the teams with a draw. Pulled.
I think the teams, they usually have an option if they want to start at the traditional lower weights and work your way up, or if the teams agree, they put 10 weight classes in a hat and they pull out, and then they wrestle through those 10 weight classes. So, which means starting at 174, the matches will finish up at 165. So this should be interesting here, 15 seconds. You know, you kind of on the bottom guy, Zuckerman, you want to get out. You want to try to get a point. And then, of course, for Saracen, yeah, he's going to continue to build riding time, which I'm a little bit, I can't really see the riding time from this point, but okay, so he already has minute plus riding time. So in the collegiate and college, if the wrestler, if it ends with a minute advantage or riding time, there's another point awarded at the end of the bout. So
if you want to keep track of riding time yourself, by the way, you might be able to see it on your screen. We will do our best to keep you up to date.
Yeah.
It is right on top of the scorers table above the word Spartans.
So here, immediately to his feet, and that's awesome. That's a good confidence builder for the freshman to get in on that and get out. Goes right into shot. I mean, that's what every coach loves to see, is that, okay, you know, everybody gets taken down, but if you get out, Andrew, that's half the battle. You get it back. So
that's a big escape point for Zuckerman at the end of the first period.
For sure. For sure.
And do you think, I mean, the break was obviously for the blood on the mat, but that's got to help at least give him an extra breath and recover.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the other wrestler gets that advantage as well. And, you know, again, Zuckerman chooses down, so it looks like NYU had the first choice at the start of the second period on what position to start, chose down. It was kind of what we call in wrestling world almost a kick out. It was kind of just a free release. And you tend to do that when you think you're better at the neutral position than your opponent. So we just saw that. So that's a third takedown by Saracen.
Saracen looking for a little bit more riding time.
Yeah. Yeah, continue to wrestle on the edge. That's what your coaches will love to see.
Boy, this would be a big start for
yeah.
the somewhat underdog in this match. They're not separated by a terribly large margin in the rankings, but NYU, I think you'd have to say, is still the favorite despite Chicago winning last year.
Yeah, I mean, they're higher ranked. I mean, NYU, I think, comes in at 17 in the intermat poll, and Chicago, I think, is up there at 24. NYU had a big win talking to Coach Bruce here last week over the Coast Guard Academy. So, yeah, again, another takedown here. That's the other thing that could drive a coach crazy. If you're going to let a guy out, you better take him down, right? So,
talk about Bruce Haberly, 24th year head coach of New York University.
Yeah, you're the name guy, Andrew. I'm known as the name butcher, so I can read the first name. Second name's
you can defer. That's okay.
Yeah, so
another escape by Zuckerman.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when we had this call earlier in the week with Coach Leo, he did mention Saracen and, you know, not only what he's been doing on the mat as a true freshman, but in the classroom. I think straight A's or something along those lines.
4.0 awesome. GPA, he said.
Yeah.
In addition to all the accolades he's had.
Right.
He's had 2 5-match win streaks this year.
Yeah. So and there's Coach Leo. You could chance over there. He's been there, what do you say, Andrew, 40? It's 1980?
Leo Coker, here since the 80s.
Yeah. How old were you, Andrew?
I was...
Just kidding.
I was pre-thought. I was not exactly conceived
I think
yet.
that's when I might have reached my peak of my wrestling career as an 8th grade in the CYO league here in Northeast Ohio. So start of the third period, Saracen chooses down, which is a common thought here. See if he can get out, get a point, get back on his feet.
A couple of longtime coaches with Coker in his 40th season. Haberly in his 24th. They've had a nice little UAA rivalry going the last several years.
But yeah, the Zuckerman's pretty tough on top there. He's not giving up, and you know, he's dropped to the leg. He's trying to eat away at some of that riding time. Didn't award the one yet. It looks like now they did. So score 9-5 going into the last minute 20 of this bout.
That should
There's
pretty
another-
well seal it up, you would think, for Saracen.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, a little bit slicker on the feet for the freshman from Iowa. Although they didn't. Did they award the 2? I guess they did, yeah. The 2. There it is.
That's going to make this
kick
pretty
out.
tight.
Yeah. So here's the match, or here's the strategy within the strategy there, Andrew. They're trying to get to that 8-point decision, right? To get that extra team point. Regular decision is 3 points. If you beat your opponent by 8 points or greater, it's 4 points for the team. And so, see right there, if that was a little bit inbounds, it could have been a 6-point move, basically 2 for the takedown and to get some back points. So yeah, I mean, the coaches I'm sure all the wrestlers know that, score as much as you score often and score more, right?
A 5-point difference right now. So if you're Zuckerman at this point, your goal is to keep it within that 8-point margin.
There it is, yeah. And if you add that riding time in again, which is this, so if you can hold them down here, that's going to be your major decision. And you can hear the teammates and the fans and the coaches yelling for him to get out. And
well, that's a
it's like
7-point difference on the scoreboard, and then
but
the factor in the riding time.
Riding time, right? So that's why it's important. So you factored in. It's gonna, I believe.
That'll be enough.
Yeah. So it'll be 14-6. Saracen from the true freshmen. Battle of true freshmen wins out there.
So a major decision to start it off.
Okay.
For Ben Saracen, a 14-6 victory.
So
for the University of Chicago freshman.
Nothing. So the other thing, Andrew, I did forget to talk about this, is that there is a strategy as well as who reports first. So I believe NYU had to report first at the last match, so Chicago will report here the wrestler first. That strategy goes to the coaching as far as who they might send out against a wrestler. So Kyle
Peisker? Kyle Peisker will wrestle here at the 184 weight class. He's been wrestling at 174 this year, and he'll go up against Luke Ratchford.
So wait a minute. It looks like did they do a switch there?
And they may have. It was originally supposed to be Luke Ratchford, but now Kyle Peisker will win a forfeit.
Okay.
And Nick Carolla will take on Luke Ratchford.
So this is at the this might be, is this 197 or 184?
This will be at 197.
Right, okay, so we got to get that changed up on the screen. So Peisker took the forfeit, which, basically strict. So we have here at the 97 pound is Nick Carolla for UC and Luke Ratchford, right, you said, for NYU.
Carolla out of Amston, Connecticut. Hasn't wrestled a ton this year and listed at the 174 weight class, so wrestling up a little bit. 4-0 on the season. Got a win by fall.
Hey,
at the 2-minute mark.
94, so that's kind of right there. So, but oh no, wait, I'm sorry. That's the other. Yeah, Ratchford wrestled weighed in at 181, so probably a little undermanned here, undersized, I should say. So
just a little bit. Carolla, the junior, though, just a little bit older than the sophomore Ratchford, so perhaps just a touch more experience.
Yeah.
The Ratchfords wrestled significantly more than Carolla has this year. Ratchford 10-8 coming into today after missing last year due to injury. Carolla 4-0. Won his last 2 matches by fall.
Yeah, so some might be thinking about that forfeit. Well, at 84, the Chicago kid, Peisker, definitely has some credentials. Basically, I think he's ranked 5 or 6 in Intermat. Finished up second at the Pete Wilson, which is one of the toughest D3 tournaments, and won a couple in Midlands at D1. So the action here is basically Carolla gets out, and then I believe Ratchford was hit with a stalling call. So 2-1 still to take down to the escape here in the first period with Ratchford winning. I'm sorry. Am I sorry? Or no, 2-2. That's what I thought. Tied up. Yeah. So with that second escape. So.
Corolla trying to go in low. Ratchford with just, it looks like a slight height advantage and a slight reach advantage as well.
Yeah, definitely from the bout weigh-in, she has some pounds on him as well. So there he is trying to get to that leg, keep knee pounding. 37 seconds he gets that takedown. So 4-2 for Corolla. So with that forfeit too, that gives UC another 6 points. So that would be, I think, 10-0 now. So the score out there. Okay.
And again, you'll see in the top right of your screens, you get a look at Bruce Haberly, his 24th year as head coach of NYU. There's your team score in the bottom right and the individual match score at the top.
So yeah, so you're end of the first period here. You want to obviously finish on top as Corolla builds up again some riding time. He's got the 2 takedowns, escape. So
there's a look at Leo Coker talking with his assistants as we come to the end of the first period in what's been our second match of action. So far, 10-0 the score in favor of the University of Chicago as Luke Ratchford for NYU wrestles against Nick Corolla at the 197 weight class. We've had 2 matches so far. One was a forfeit, one of our scheduled 3, the 184 weight class, a forfeit for Chicago's Kyle Peisker.
yeah, Ratchford gets up again, gets out. Kind of a free release, maybe, perhaps. So,
looks like Corolla trying to get hand position on that left wrist of Ratchford.
you want to keep your heads inside, try to get your hand inside, blocked. So, Ratchford keeping the pressure on, so you want to do that. Nice ankle pick there. So you just change your level there, Andrew. Look at that, 2-4. So that's a 6 point right there. You can stay on there, continue to work it to go for the fall. So.
And Corolla was so quick on that too. He went from grappling at the wrist to reaching for that ankle in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's nice. You just drop down, grab that ankle, execute it very, very technique-wise. It's perfect. So again, a free release. So you got 10-4 here. Again, looking for bonus points. That's what the coaches want their wrestlers to do.
Ratchford just trying to bridge the gap. Wow,
yeah,
Nick
nice
Corolla
little,
right on top
pancake,
of him.
right? Shoot in with your arms out. Comes in. Nice pancake, but you got to give it to the NYU wrestler. A little outgunned there from a weight standpoint, but battled right to the end. So it's another 6 points, a fall for NYU.
So give it to Nick Corolla in a dominant win at the 197 weight class.
Yep.
And now the heavyweights.
Big guys.
Patrick Mulcairn
Yeah,
for
NYU,
Chicago.
For Chicago, right? So.
Will Ortman for NYU.
Yeah, Mulcairn has put in a workman's workload here. Basically 36 matches already this year. So. And then the NYU wrestler, you said, was?
Will Ortman.
Will Ortman. Sophomore, 9-4.
Mulcairn out of St. Ignatius High School in the Chicago area.
Uh-oh, St. Ignatius.
Wrong one.
Okay,
Not in these parts.
Right. So.
Easy there, John.
So there was a point that
St.
was
Ed's
awarded, and I believe I missed it. It looks like his hand in the face. I figured we'd get one of these calls. It's been a big emphasis in all levels of wrestling, collegiate as well as some of the high schools. You know, raking a guy's face, which, you know, used to be sometimes deliberate and strategic, now is a point of emphasis for the officials and for the NCAA and the wrestling to do that. So the opponent, you know, gets awarded 1 point, you get your face raked. So not the side of the head, the top of the head. You know, that's all standard procedure as far as wrestling goes, to move your guy to get to your shots and so forth. So
Ortman just trying to stay on his feet.
yeah, Ortman trying to pull him back in.
Ortman's got a, like you said, a size disadvantage here by about 40 pounds.
Okay.
As he tries to wiggle his way away from Patrick Mulcairn. Mulcairn weighed in at 261.4 pounds this morning, and Ortman at 222.8. Ortman the sophomore, Mulcairn the senior.
Yeah, those big guys, there can be a big weight differential. Not so much in the other weights, but this one for sure.
So now Chicago up big 16-0, and Mulcairn with that size advantage, trying to extend that lead a little bit in what's really the premier matchup in this 3-dual meet format, with number 17 NYU against number 24 Chicago.
Yeah. So yeah, so Mulcairn competed over at the Pete Wilson about 2-3 weeks ago at Wheaton College, right outside Chicago, so close to home. And looks like he took 5th, maybe 6th. It definitely got some competition in there. It's often talked about as the Midlands of D3, which is one of the toughest in-season tournaments for D3 wrestlers. I think there was somewhere around 43 teams there. Case Western competed, NYU did not compete at that. So one of those grinding 2-day tournaments that most of these guys have been through in their career. You know, well, you hope it's 2 days, because if you don't, you know, make it to the second day. I mean,
well, and if you make it to that second day, I'd imagine you've just got to be gassed.
Yeah, definitely sore for sure. Yeah, definitely for sure, and then even more so after the weekend. So, I believe UC, University of Chicago, ended up with limited staff. It took 6 guys over there. They came in mid-pack, 15. Peisker, the 74-pounder, ended up taking second to I think one of the top-ranked kids in the country from Mount Union. So.
Speaking of being short man, by the way, NYU is short man today. They're missing a few key wrestlers.
I think they weighed in 10, the minimum, right? I mean, it looks like when I did my counting, so, you know, I think you have the option to weigh in as much as 13 for these weight classes.
The captain, Will Crisco, at 133 is out. And the number 8 man in the country at the 149 level, Sean Lyons, is out as well. Yeah. So there's Bruce Haberly working with a short bench.
Yep. So we have Ortman up 1-0 on that penalty call, and so, you know, the sophomore, and he's riding hard. So he's definitely put into it. So I'm sure he's feeling some motivation that can hang with this guy, and you know, hopefully put the Wildcats, right? It's the NYU Wildcats, or is it the Violets?
The Violets.
It's Wildcats or Violets? It's Violets. Did they change that?
They've still got the Wildcat logo, but they are the Violets.
That's too confusing for me.
I was in high school. We were the Mounties, but our logo was a bulldog, so we had a lot of questions. I can sympathize with the marketing department at New York University.
And it's the University of Chicago Maroons, right? So we have a color battle going on there, right? All right.
And the Case Western.
So here he's hanging on. So Ortman's just trying to want to get back on those hips, because the higher you get in that position, like there, you know, the Chicago wrestler ended up getting a reversal, right? Going out the back door from that standpoint, and that's 2 points. So, yeah, he did build up some riding time. But see if it sticks here for Ortman.
That's got to be tough. Again, we talked about Mulcairn having about a 40-pound advantage, and Ortman's got to slither his way out.
So
Mulkerrin gains riding time up above 1 minute and 40 seconds.
yeah. So I stand corrected. A penalty point went to Mulkerrin, so it's 3-0 for Mulkerrin. The hands to the face in the first period. So.
And again, if you're keeping tabs, Chicago is on the right side of your scoreboard. Individual totals at the top, team totals at the bottom. So you see that 16 flickering in the bottom right as we enter the third period of our heavyweight bout between Patrick Mulkerrin, the senior for Chicago, and
So
Will
Mulkerrin
Ortman, the sophomore for NYU.
Chooses down, right?
You sounded like you were confused a bit by that strategy.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out where that extra point came from. So if he 4-0 to Mulkerrin, must have been a stalling call. Missed that. So another escape, 5-0 Mulkerrin, the senior. I believe the wrestler was overruled by the coach on that last decision by McCullough. Which, you know, that's usually a 50-50 call with wrestlers. Sometimes they're like, well.
They can be stubborn, huh?
Oh, yeah. But then you'll hear about it the next day or practice, trust me. So,
if
so
you're
yeah, if
Ortman
he gets a
here,
takedown here, you know, trying again, you know, I believe Mulkerrin has riding time, so if you get a takedown here, then that would, when you finish on top, that would give them the advantage of another bonus point decision.
they're looking for that major decision to extend this 16-0 lead for Chicago.
So I know you're somewhat new to the sport here, Andrew, but these big guys actually move pretty good. Sometimes these matches end up being, you know, 1-0, 0-0 till the last guy just basically gets gassed out. So both of them still moving at this point in the match and trying to be aggressive and get some points here. So.
And there's some strategy in that too, not draining your battery so early in the match.
Somewhat, yeah. It's funny you should mention that because there was a big dual meet down in Columbus last week on the D1 side where if you watched Ohio State versus Penn State and specifically the 141 bout, which Joey McKenna for Ohio State and Nick Lee for Penn State, classic where McKenna just ran out of gas and ended up losing, which, you know, for most of us in the wrestling community pretty much thought there goes Ohio State chances into that bout. So the match. So yeah, so it ends up the score 5-0. Yeah, it's good to see the outmanned Ortman just continue to go at it and compete. So.
And we'll get the riding time, should be added for Mulkerrin as well.
So a regular decision. So next up, the little guys. We got the little guys here, right? So.
The 125-pound match, wrestling to the room, the freshman from Staten Island, New York, David Traub.
I'll make it 19-0, by the way, in favor of the University of Chicago with the regular decision by Patrick Mulkerrin. It will be David Traub for the University of Chicago, Jonathan Keltz for New York University. Remember, we started at 174, the teams drawing before the match and pulling 174 out of the hat. So we flip all the way back down to 125.
Yeah, so Traub is he a freshman as well? David 7-12 on the year.
Freshman out of Staten Island, New York. Had a couple of matches a few weeks ago at that Pete Wilson invite that we've been talking about.
Yeah, wrestled there. Doesn't look like he's competed since.
Nope, last wrestled on January the 25th, so it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah. And then here's the 25-pounder for NYU. Peltz, right?
Jonathan Keltz.
Keltz, sorry.
Freshman out of Scarsdale, New York. Traub out of New York as well, Staten Island.
Yeah, I mean, looking at kind of the rosters there, you know, NYU seems to have the most, lack of a better term, local kids, New Jersey, New York kids. Both UC's and Case Western's roster a little bit more geographically diverse. Nice shot there by Traub. Look at, he just shot in on that ankle, stayed low, right? Worked your way up, and then was able to cover the hip and pull him back down for that 2 points. So
there's that escape for Kelts.
So he went ahead and had to free release more or less. So 2-1.
Kelts has wrestled, by the way, mostly at this 125 weight class, but has one match at 133.
So look at that. Nice shot there, Kelts. Look at that. Get in there. Oh, he awarded the points.
Kelts getting in today just underweight, too.
Quick. So you had a reversal. So you had a takedown by Kelts, quick reversal by Traub, and then another free release there, or more or less released by Traub. So again, action picks up here. 4-4, 30 seconds left in the first.
Both wrestlers getting in just barely underweight today. Traub 0.2 of a pound under 125, and Kelts 0.4 of a pound.
Yeah, the little guys, they definitely have to watch their weight. So here, this is exactly, they talk about a coach loves to see. You want to try to score at the end of the period. Be aggressive. If you can get that extra takedown, get that escape, adds momentum going in. So no riding time. I think it's not a factor. So you can see Coach Bruce getting fired up and excited there, pacing the sidelines. Probably knows the importance of this match.
This is the tightest match we've seen so far through the first period at 4 apiece, and a chance for NYU down 19-0 to climb back a little bit. They don't have many matches to do so.
Yeah. So here's the one thing I was thinking on that takedown reversal. It was a quick call for the takedown by the official, and then there was a quick reversal. So if you did watch again the Penn State Ohio State match or some of the D1s, there's the ability to challenge. You could throw I call it a yoga block, green or red, and challenge the call, and they go back to video. I don't believe that's possible here at this level, because
we won't have the video review today.
So Peltz chose down. Traub's on the legs. See, so there's the other thing is that when a wrestler stays on the leg for a 5 count, you got to work up. He basically got a stalling warning. Next warning, Traub would give a point to his opponent. So.
Traub, by the way, coming off of a decorated high school career out in Staten Island. Most wins in Tottenville high school history, 153. And a former New York Junior Greco-Roman state champion.
Yeah, it's one of the things when we talked to Coach Leo is the amount of wrestling and opportunities these kids have is just, in the last 20 years, has been awesome. So there is a nice little stand-up. Traub basically almost set him up, it looked like. He stands up and then he drops into a tilt. So, cover that arm, expose the back, past the 45, and you get the count. So he was awarded, I didn't catch that, 2, 3, or 4. There you go, there's the award now. So he ends up getting a 4 count, which gives him a nice little cushion. 8, 3-point cushion, 8-5 for.
Get a look at Bruce Haberly on the sidelines. He has to be feeling the heat a little bit now. Chicago won last year, ending a 6-year run for the Violets as UAA champions, and it was really tight last year, 21-19 in the Chicago-NYU match.
He got that leg, and so this is a Turk here. He's going, basically you get that leg, hook up, you elevate, you got to elevate, and now you got to claw and expose the back, and he should be counting. So I believe there was didn't expose the back for long enough, so no points awarded there for Traub. Tough on top. One of the things that coaches used to say is if you can take a man down and escape, how can somebody beat you in this sport? So. So 20 seconds left in the second. You hear the coach's Leo Coker from the sideline encouraging him to finish on top or ride him out this period for his wrestler.
Traub with a very slight advantage in this period.
Straight up. Yeah. So there you go. Now, Traub's got to watch it because he could get another stalling warning, which he just did, so he gave him a point. So that's the other thing, mad awareness, and now he got another point. So if you look at that, Andrew, that's definitely a huge momentum shift for Peltz, right? Basically, 2 points for that takedown. It's us fans of the sport understand how mentally thinking this sport is. You would have been better off just letting him go, doing the free release, and would have saved another point. But yeah, looked like it was the right call, although the officials are discussing it. So I don't know if that was brought in by official timeout or if Coach Coker was saying stuff. You can see his little frustration on his face, which would be.
No escape, says Chris Loudermilk.
No escape. All right, so here comes the NYU assistant coach, I believe, right?
So back to
and he's
back to a 2-point lead.
Talking to Watermouth.
Back to a 2-point lead for David Traub, the freshman for Chicago, over Jonathan Keltz of NYU. That was going to be a really nice rally for Keltz to get a couple of points at the end.
He got one, so I mean, 0.6 seconds. Tough to say if they take this point away, or well, not take it away, but if they don't award the escape, which it looks like they did not. Tough to get back out in that 6 seconds, but he did get a point, due to the stalling call by David Traub. And that's what you expect. So, Red's decision. So, basically, David Traub chooses down.
And see how Keltz handles this at the start of this last 2-minute period, down 2 after a really nice end to the second.
So I think I'm not sure there's any riding time, but it might be. So the strategy here is if you're a wrestler on top, Peltz, and you do, say are down riding time over a minute, you want to try to at least ride the guy out so that you can alleviate that. Now, he's pretty active on top, so Peltz might be one of those wrestlers that excels on top or looking for some near falls.
Traub able to get out of Keltz's grasp and get a point.
Yep. So you're down 3. So you basically, the goal, try to take him down as quick as possible, release, and then take him down again.
Looks like Keltz wants to use his quickness to sweep in on that leg.
And you got to remember, Traub already has stalling glass, so there it is. So there's a takedown. So again, the strategy within the strategy, and you can see Coach Bruce encouraging, kick him out. He did. Kicks him out, so now 10-8. Traub does have the stalling point already there, and there it is, takedown, 10-8, tied up. So conditioning, looks like I've kicked him out again. So going for the win, takedown here. Should be able to win it, 30 seconds. You got to remember again, Traub already has one stalling call, one stalling point. So if he gets another call for non-action, it would be another point awarded to Peltz.
This would be a 3-point win for Chicago.
So see if the ref is going to. He does a Japanese. See, that was an exciting one right there, yeah. So, you keep that down, and every point counts. So if you go back to, not getting that escape right at the end, would have been tied up.
Well, the 125's giving us our most exciting match
sometime
of the afternoon so far.
Yeah, sometime the case. So yeah, UC comes out with its tightest margin of victory as of yet through the first 5 matches. So.
And still up 22-0 now.
22-0. So we get into the 130.
133s.
So 133s, yeah, 133. So Louis DeMarco, or Lewis, and Zach Alexander for New York. Louis DeMarco for University of Chicago.
How could you tell, right?
So Andrew, here's the Cleveland connection. Louis DeMarco actually was a youth wrestler, and Hawken, Hawken High School graduate and wrestler, and I think a 1-2-time placer at the state and Division III here. So hometown wrestler.
And a guy
nice
you're very familiar with generally, having
Coach
Coach
Louis
Lewis.
in grade school. I remember his first year he wrestled, so he's definitely got a nice little fan crew here. And had a nice little reshot off of Alexander's shot, takedown. He had a nice little tilt in there, rolled through it though. So there you saw a shot of his parents.
You've seen him wrestle quite a bit throughout his career. What is his greatest strength?
Good on his feet. Most Ohio wrestlers tend to be very, very good on their feet. Haven't seen him that much at the collegiate level. He's had a couple injuries here, season-ending injuries, so he's a senior. So it's good that the coaches were able to find a spot, get him in the lineup here in front of, again, kind of the hometown crowd. So he's got a nice little takedown. Now he's got that cradle, so that's called a cradle, Andrew. Right? So, basically you got the leg and the hand locked together, and you're trying to expose your opponent's back, right? So, you saw one of the masters at it last night at 197 pounds, Bo Nickel for Penn State. So gave it up, couldn't quite turn him, so he just, Louis DeMarco ends up just going behind to work on his other rides. So
And trying to take his riding time on Zach Alexander, the freshman out of St. John's Prep in Massachusetts. And Zach, no slouch despite being a freshman against a senior, 3-time high school All-American.
there you go. And Lewis kicks him out or lets him go, free release with 1 minute left. So again, the idea is if you're doing this, you want to score, you want to get that takedown. Nice shot by the freshman there. Lewis, a senior, so a little bit more collegiate experience, obviously. And then that's a call by Deke Gunselman, right? Potentially dangerous. You don't want to blow anybody's knees out or shoulders. That's tends to be some of the bigger injuries for these guys. So, and there's Lewis right in on that nice fireman's or dump, call it. So.
Our first match of 3 dual meets today. NYU and Chicago first. The loser gets Case next, and then Case gets the winner of this match for the final meet in our UAA championship.
See, there it is. There's a nice little basically tilt. You basically use your weight to pull your opponent over. And again, second or third time I talked about scoring at the end of the period. It's basically very, very important momentum, but it can be very demoralizing for the other wrestler. So you can see how the mental aspect of it. So Lewis has a nice little lead here, 8-2, going into the second. I believe it was Lewis's University of Chicago's choice, and he chose neutral. So which I think you've taken down 3 or 4 times.
So Deacon Solly calling Zach Alexander for grabbing Louis DeMarco's headgear there.
Yeah. So.
And Deke very quick on that call.
Yeah, it was tough to see here from it. So there you go. So there's the Alexander, nice little shot, gets in there. That's the challenge, right? You don't want to give up. You keep going at it. Lewis back to his feet, stand up.
You could see Alexander a second ago, too, trying to go for that headlock and being very cautious with the headgear after that last call.
Yeah. So, he looks pretty solid on top so far, Alexander. So this might have been a strategic move by DeMarco to choose neutral, although he does basically give him a free release. So, got a minute 5 left here in the second. So I know Lewis as well had some sparing competition this year. Had some injuries, and might be his last competition based upon the the roster going into regionals. I think the next time all 3 teams compete would be at the regionals from their respective conferences, or I should say your regional sites. So.
The regionals coming up just in a couple weeks now,
into
February.
Yeah, so and that's the that's the playoffs, right? So you want to basically top 3 and D3 qualify at each weight, qualify for nationals. So and each team here, Case Western, NYU, as well as University of Chicago, they're in a different regional. So if these competitors see each other again this season, it would be in Roanoke, Virginia, where the D3, Division III Nationals are.
DeMarco, by the way, up by 8 with his team up 22-0 over NYU as we go to the 3rd period in our 133-weight class.
So Lewis chooses, can't remember whose choice was that. Was NYU's choice chose top? So obviously, down by 8 points, unless you're going to go on your feet and try to take him down, you're looking for a fall here, right? You're looking for a series of back points and possibly a fall, tie it up. So
now you need something big in order to bridge that gap.
Yeah, and Luis DeMarco is strategically being aggressive, but being cautious. You don't want to open yourself up, to the cradle or to some type of major headlock or move that's going to basically put you in a bad situation. So I would suspect the refs might warn him for a delay of action or stalling call. So you can see, Lewis keeping his arms in. You don't want to get your, don't want your opponent to get their arms under you. Continue to keep good position. So now right here he's locking up. So what he's trying to lock up there was a Merkle, which believe it or not is a move. Unlike some of the other moves I might say today, like barnacle claw or the Mongolian backflip.
The ones that you invent on your own.
Oh yeah, see? So yeah, Lewis, probably strategic on his part, a little less accurate, I guess.
It's a little bit of defensive wrestling up by now 9.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sense, trying to open yourself up. You always want to keep scoring, but obviously, when you're up by 7, 8 points, you don't want to give up a throw, a situation, put you in a bad position. So
trying to hold on to keep this at a major decision.
So yeah, Luis DeMarco gets a nice win, gets a nice little hometown crowd. Here, giving him a chair.
That's nice for him to end a minor 3-match losing streak.
Yeah.
Back on the right side of the ledger, and his team now up 26-0 over NYU.
Yep.
Now this should be one of the premier matches, at least in our first meet, with Chase Hawk going up against one of the top wrestlers in the country at his weight class, Evan Drill at 141.
A returning All-American. I believe last year Bruce Haberly's team had 2 All-Americans. Evan Drill at 141, I believe, was one of them, placed 4th, and then Ray Janisoff, who was a senior, was 157.
So here is Drill, one of the captains, junior out of the little town of Neshannock Station, New Jersey, and the number 10 D3 wrestler at 141.
Probably know well, but those small towns, those produce some of the best wrestlers.
Neshannock Station, little suburb of a small town. It is the tiny borough of Branchburg, New Jersey.
Light and you miss it. So, so there's a nice little attack by Drill, and then the wrestler Hawk. How do you pronounce that last name there for you?
Hawk, Chase Hawk.
Hawk. Nice little throw by. Scored. So.
Listed as a 149, but wrestling at 141 today is the sophomore
Tall,
for Chicago.
Kid, yeah, really tall, lanky. You can see it. Oh, nice little dump. Hawk gets a nice little dump there and gets his first 2 points. Speaking of AAA, Bruce Haverly's club had somewhere around 23 AAs over the programs, for what I could tell, and their last national champ was two-time national champ, Nathan Pike in 2017 at 133.
Evan, the favorite in this match, losing some riding time to Hawk.
Yeah, it was a nice tack, nice both guys on their feet, and you got tack and retack, and Hawk gets the dump and the roll, so got a timeout for headgear adjustment for Drill.
Mentioned Drill, an All-American last year, 4th place at the NCAA championships.
Which was where, Andrew? Here in Cleveland.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's right at the Q.
No, it was actually
Oh, that's right. D1 was at the Q, was it
D1
not?
was at the Q. It was at Public Auditorium, which was fun to go see. So the following week is when the Division I Wrestling Championship was here in Cleveland. This year it heads over for Division I, heads over to Pittsburgh. So if you're Drill, again, you got taken out once, okay, you get out, right? Everybody gets taken down, you get out, and then you want to work your match, set it up such that you can get to your shots, get to your ties, and finish up with the takedown to take the lead here in the first period, 49 seconds left.
I'm both trying to attack low.
Yeah, you adjust your level. So you got a tall guy, so there's some good in-match adjustment, I think, by the Drill's a senior or junior? Junior, okay.
Against the sophomore Hawk.
Hawk. Keep in mind, in D3, there's really no red shirt, so unlike the D1 athletes, these guys will be true to their suit. They could get a gray shirt if they possibly get hurt. So again, there's Hawk in on that. With that tall length, using his length to get in on that leg single, and he's shelving it. So what you want to do there is you want to shelf that and to get to the other side. So he's going to you got to try to cover that other hip for the takedown. And for Drill, it's to keep that head, and he did. He hipped himself over. No points awarded. So he had that wizard in, and you could see you want to leverage and hip him over to almost get it. So no points were awarded, which Hawk goes in and takes the 2-1 lead here into the second.
And pretty well a stalemate in the first period.
A lot of action, though. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes the score isn't reflective of how many attacks, how many re-attacks, re-shots, defensive moves that the wrestlers take. So there's always a match within the match.
So a well-contested stalemate.
Yeah. So Hawk, just gets in that crab ride, which is a move, trying to break your wrestler down, ride his hips, get him flat. So Drill needs to free that arm. He's going after attacking that toe. You can see attack that leg. There it is, stalemate. I thought that might be coming.
A couple of guys who wrestled at regionals last year. Evan Drill actually won the Northeast Regional Championship last season.
Sets you up for the ability to AA, right? You set up as #1 seed or one of the other ones. So nice little stand-up reversal there, and then there's Hawk continues to attack. So we got a reversal by Drill.
So Evan Drill will take the lead.
Chain wrestling, that's what they preach. You want to chain wrestle, one move to the next. So now here Hawk has to see what he has on bottom in order to get his hips under him. And basically get your knees under you, get to your feet. Because with that reversal, Drill takes the 2-1 lead.
Drill's making it tough on him with control of that left wrist.
Yeah, you want to control that arm, control there. It's put a lot of pressure on your shoulder in the sport, so. So there he's going for the bar arm. He's got that locked up. Bar. One of the challenges with these taller, lanky guys, sometimes those arms, it's like they're almost double jointed. Yeah, I see that a lot with these tall guys. So it's tough to do those arm bars on them because so you see Drill getting aggressive. It's all good, clean. Basically physical as the match goes on, continue to put pressure. I'm sure he's wanting to get his team on the board here with a win.
He's given them their best shot so far. Boy, Evan Drill, a 25-5 record this year, and you can really see why, but boy, Chase Houck is really giving him a run for his money.
Chase is a freshman, right? Is that a freshman?
Sophomore.
Sophomore, so sophomore, junior. So, yeah. So I think Hawk chose neutral, so, put on their feet. I believe you can't see the riding time if that's an issue. Yeah, it looks like no riding time to either opponent, right? So go takedowns, Andrew. This is about. This is what you're, from elementary school on, right? Go takedowns to win the match. Wrestlers, they don't fantasize about the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. They're about the NCAA championship and the takedown to win the match. So and Evan Drill shows that the experience that he's had there, and just a power straight on power double. Right?
Approaching the minute mark of the third period, and Drill trying to get NYU on the board. Down 26-0 against 24 ranked Chicago. NYU coming into today at 17 in the country.
So there's he's scoring his points there as far as some back points. Got 2 awarded, expose the shoulders. And it takes a 7-2 lead. I'm sure Coach Bruce wants him to try to get some bonus points here.
Only 3 matches left between NYU and Chicago.
So basically 3 matches. So even if there's falls, 6, depending on what he does here, the competition might be decided by the end of this match.
You talk about the match within the match, and now it becomes for NYU. They don't have to just win every single weight class in order to have a mathematical shot. They have to dominate every weight class.
Yeah, well, in 30 seconds, unless we get a fall or bonus points here, they'll be more or less mathematically eliminated. So,
remember, a big factor in this match as well between Chicago and NYU, especially NYU lacking some of their top wrestlers today.
Yeah, next bout 149, Sean Lyons is out. I think there's I can't remember who else they had in there, but so NYU gets on the board with a decision, so it'll be 26-3. So at this point, the bout, if I do my math, Andrew, it's 3 times 6, it's 18. Carry the 1, 3, so 21, 26. So, the match itself is decided in UC Chicago, but these wrestlers are going to compete, just to continue to be aggressive and get out there after they train all hard to do it. So. Who do we have here, Andrew?
This will be Alec Gleason for Chicago, Seth Schulman for NYU.
Okay. Yeah, so this is where Lyons, who I believe is a 6th, 7th ranked, Sean Lyons is out of the lineup.
Intermat has him at number 8 at the 149 weight class.
So Gleason in on a nice reshot there, double, open up. Still reshot. So there again, nice little shot in on that leg. Brings it in. He's going to split the legs here. It's a common tactic. You want to pop his head. So Gleason wants to pop his head, cover that hip, and then now that should be 2. Basically there, even though you have that ankle.
I'm going to give him 2 more.
Yeah.
Alec Gleason, the sophomore out of East Brunswick, New Jersey. Seth Schulman, a freshman from Scarsdale, New York.
So there's a reversal by Schulman. Continue to hold that leg and around. So Gleason 4-3. So with the escape by Gleason, 5-3.
Gleason coming into today, 12-14 on the year. Got the win against June Lee of Augustana last Friday. Shulman at 2-10 on the season.
Nice adjustment of level, nice shot there right on the ankles. Take him out from under it. And another 2-point for Gleason.
You're watching the University Athletic Association Wrestling Championships. University of Chicago up 26-3 against NYU. Seth Shulman of the Violets wrestling against Alec Gleason of the Chicago Maroons at the 149 weight class.
Maroon looks like to be the dominant color here today.
And at this point,
Yeah.
Chicago, I don't know if you would say unexpectedly, but certainly unexpectedly leading by this much. I mean, we expected this to be a lot closer of a first match, given that you've got the number 17 ranked team in the country,
so,
NYU, against Chicago.
So yeah, this time of the season, you know, there's obviously you want to compete, you want to win your conference. But if you got guys banged up, you know, and I'm just assuming, we didn't actually get to talk to Bruce, Coach Bruce about it, but, you know, you only weigh in 10 guys, so your choices are limited. You know, you're allowed to weigh in 13 by conference rules, and so, you know, and especially a couple of your studs, you know, are out, so I'm sure that's probably not from the afraid of, or the lack of, or fear of competition. It's, okay, we got to get these guys healthy for what really matters here, the run. So
yeah, you want to make sure that by the time you hit regionals, these guys aren't banged up just in service of getting a conference championship.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I imagine that's, you know, part of the conversation that they always have. I mean, you know, I don't know one athlete that does not want to compete, but you know, that's why you got to basically have, you know, calmer heads and really look at the big goal. So. And then for these other guys, it's a big opportunity for them to step up. I mean, you know, you see, you know, the NYU wrestler here, you know, I'm not sure how much competitions he's had this year, but, you know, you see on a couple of those, a guy like Louis DeMarco and, you know, for University of Chicago that might not have as many matches, but, you know, they're working just as hard in the room every day. You know, keeping the grades, keeping the weight, keeping the, keeping the strength up. So, you know, coaches, you know, want to give them the opportunity to compete. So.
Shulman trying to wriggle free of Alec Gleason's grasp.
Yeah, he's got double legs in. You know, tough to get out. You know, wrestlers ask, well, how do you get out of double legs? Don't let them in, right? Yeah,
that's sage advice.
Right. So, but you got to get your knees under you. You got to get your hips under your knees. That's where all your power is, right? You know, so in wrestling, you know, if you don't have that under you, it's tough to stand up when you're on your belly. So, and Gleason going for that armbar. So,
Shulman trying to get that right arm underneath him just so he can like vault himself up.
So there you go. You know, a lot of pressure. See all that pressure right on that shoulder? So, you know, I mean, at one point when he gets to a certain angle to the mat, Andrew, the wrestler on the bottom, has a choice. Either my shoulder gets dislocated or I go over. So.
That's a tough decision in the heat of competition.
Yeah, you don't like to make that decision too often when you're on bottom, so for sure. So.
You got to think there has to be a third door that I can open.
Yeah, so here, the NYU wrestler gets his knees under it, and then now, feeling the pressure on the top, he looks like Gleason was going to go for a rollover tilt. So, you know, that's the other thing. You come up on that move, and we saw Louis DeMarco do that in a 133 pounder. He basically jumps over and uses momentum to pull you over your body. So. So I think Gleason had chose top. So.
Well, still a chance for Shulman to claw back in this match, but with Gleason starting on top. He looks like he's just so strong in that top position.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's you have your choice like that. You go in or you ride out a wrestler for, that's why sometimes point differential, if you just look at it, it sometimes doesn't necessarily tell the true maybe dominance of a wrestler. So I mean, you might win by 2, 4, 3 points, but when you're being rode out for 3, 5 minutes, it's it gets pretty frustrating on there for the bottom guy, and it shows shows the quality of wrestler on top for the top guy for sure. So NYU wrestler was warned, and already a stalling warning, so imagine might get another one here point. So the referee, so there you go, stalemate. All in there. So again, there's little victories even in matches like this, Andrew, where you want to, if you're, the NYU guy, you're like, okay, let's get a point, get up, get to my feet, get out, you got to build on that for either, for the rest of the match or for your next competition. So University of Chicago, just kind of give a little bit history there, I believe, they basically come in 24th, 23 AAs, Maryland Americans, which is the ultimate goal for most of these wrestlers, right? You want to compete at this level, whether it's D1, D2, D3, make it to the national tournament and become an All-American. Obviously, the academics of these institutions speak for themselves, so, there's no wrestling life after college, so at least for most of these guys that might not compete on the world stage or the Olympic stage, but and you look at the academic rigors of these schools, it's great to see a true student athlete in the D3 world. So
we'll talk about that as we go on, as well as Alec Gleason takes the win over Seth Schulman. Chicago's win over NYU pretty well mathematically cemented now, but we were talking about this with Leo Coker, the head coach of Chicago, earlier this week, about how his recruiting competition isn't just other D3 programs, they're D1 programs
Harvards,
that have the same academic rigor.
Yeah. I mean, it's they have more. Typically, they have more resources, right? No athletic scholarships in the D3 world. So who do we have here? I know for University of Chicago, it looks like Steve Bonsell.
Correct, and then Dylan Dwyer for NYU.
Dwyer, okay. So 57-pound matchup. Bonsell is a 2017, I believe he was, as a freshman, he was All-American at 157. If memory serves me, looking at his competition schedule, it's been somewhat limited this year.
20 matches, 17-3 to this point this season.
That's pretty decent, yeah. So.
And then Dwyer at 20-7 for the Violets.
I know at the Pete Wilson, they had their other 157 Gray that wrestled there that saw him compete. So Leo Coker at these mid-weights, he kind of has a plethora of choices and talent. That's what a wrestler always, a coach wants, right? 2 to 3 guys deep at each weight that can compete.
And Bonsell's had a terrific year, won 9 straight matches, including 2 at the NWCA National Duels. His streak was only snapped, by the way, by one of the top wrestlers in the country at this 157 level, Keon Durain of Elmhurst. Last match against Keon Durain, he lost to the Elmhurst Invite, and before that, 9 matches in a row, he was victorious.
Yeah, I mean, a former AA, basically he was, if you go to the Maroons website, basically doing one of those get to know you. I believe a New Jersey guy. Dad wrestled, like mentioned in the interview. Like a lot of those guys out there, their dads get them started in sports. Like a lot of sports, father-son transition. So, wow, and you can see there, a nice move by McGuire. Basically ends up doing a more or less a roll through, grabbing that leg, catching that leg, and gets a reversal. And I know they got a 1 count, but I'm not sure if he awarded any more back points. So at this point, it's tied 2-2. So McGuire still is on top. You can see the ref pointing with his green, meaning he's on top in control. Even though it looks like Bonsall might have the advantage until he actually gets behind. So there's the 1 point awarded, not the 2. So again, a nice little scramble. And again, that's always a strategic decision too. If you're the guy on top, you always want to give up 1 point as opposed to 2, right? I mean, that's always makes the math easier at the end of the match.
and if you're Dylan Dwyer too, after being taken to the mat so hard like that, to be able to come back and get on top, have that reversal like you said, and get back on top, that's got to be incredibly hard
he's
mentally.
He's a Michigan kid, right? Dylan Dwyer, freshman.
From Plymouth, Michigan,
yeah.
junior.
Oh, junior, okay.
A junior, but his first time competing for NYU. He had transferred from Grand Valley State and competed for them at the club level for 2 years.
Grand Valley State. I'm not sure. There might be a D2 program or one of the other divisions. So nice shot there by Dwyer. Look, he gets in there, gets on that leg. Bonsall still has that wizard in, and so now going to award the point, 2 seconds in the end of the period. So he needed to cover that hip and pull him back to the mat. So Bonstell's up 3-2.
After a physical first period. And does that drain you at all if you're Dylan Dwyer and getting taken down so hard like he was early in the first by Steve Bonsall?
I think it's actually sometimes, I referred to that McKenna-Nick Lee match last night. If you watched Joey McKenna for Ohio State came out on fire. I mean, he was very, very aggressive. And so, Penn State wrestler Nick Lee was able to survive the storm, so to speak. So, when you're the aggressor, most times you're going to exert more of the energy, right? And if you're defending, so that can come back into, the third period, where you can basically maybe have a little more in the gas tank. And that was for sure true last night with McKenna. So
Dwyer pulling back even.
So yeah, he gets the escape here. So
Dylan Dwyer's had a few nice results this year in his first year wrestling at the varsity Division III level, like you said, at the club level in D2 with Grand Valley State the last 2 years, but took second place at the Citrus Invite, third place at the Ted Reese Invite.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's a state, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, these Midwest states. Pennsylvania, obviously, is notoriously debated as one of the best high school wrestling states, although people in Ohio, New Jersey might argue that. But,
Everybody has their own regional biases.
Yeah, so there's a nice shot, nice reshot by Dwyer there. But what Bonsall's doing is stuffing that. You got to stuff that head, keep your hips in to stuff that head, and now cut the corner. So he's got to, looks like he might be going for a stalemate in bad position. Now Dwyer's got to reach across and cover that hip. So he's got to get that, his left arm, there it is. He's pulling out, cover that hip. If he could cover that hip, he's blocking an egg, he'll get the 2.
And Bruce Haberle keeps telling him to get that arm out.
You got to get that arm out, cover that hip. So that's exposure. So now he's going to come out the back.
Ooh.
So
very tight.
So now we're going to overtime. So
take a look at it.
Yeah.
Deacon Solly saying no point, and we'll go to sudden
that's
victory.
The return of the first period. So. Oh no, third period. Sorry, folks.
Check that. You're right.
Yeah.
End of the second. So now going to the third.
Bond still chooses now.
We may be heading there though.
So can't see the riding time over there, but is Dwyer. I do think Dwyer did accumulate riding time. Kevin, we got riding time? Not yet.
Gonna see if we can get our riding time.
Yeah.
As Dwyer takes position on top. Approaching 20 seconds of riding time for Dwyer.
Okay, so finishing him on top, you finish on top here with Dwyer, you win the match. So again, I could take you down or escape from you. You can't beat me. But, you know, if you get run out, which, you know, stalemate called by the referee.
Would be a rare loss for the former All-American Steve Bonsall, and one of the few times ever in his career that he would take back-to-back losses. Just under a minute in the third.
So Bonsall needs to get out, right? So needs to get out, negate the riding time. You can see, like you had said, you know, maybe the gas tank, and or he gets a reversal, right? So now look at Bonstall's got that leg in. He's going to cover the hip. Now Dwyer's in bad position. I mean, he's too high. Bonstall needs to come out the back. He's got it exposed. So when he does, he gives up the reversal. And did we count? No, Zeke didn't count. So he's got that leg chop. So he's got him split. So, you know, so there's a little bit of a strategic decision for the NYU wrestler back there, right? Maybe you kick him out, maybe you start neutral if you got the riding time and you're all tied up and you go back to your feet. So you got a stalling red, so I think that's the first stalling warning. So 8 seconds. So Dwyer needs to get out if he has any chance of winning.
That would be a relative upset. Bonsall has not lost back-to-back matches this year.
And you can see why.
He'll take the win.
Yeah, you can see why. See, I mean, you know, even you're down by a point or two, you know, 15, 30 seconds left when he got that reversal. You know, he basically came in and got her done. So,
arguably the hardest fought match so far today,
yeah.
And these guys are gassed. They need a minute.
7 minutes. You know, some people in athletics say it's the toughest thing to do, wrestle 7 minutes. You're nobody out there. You know, there's no otherbody on the mat than you and your opponent.
So now we'll have our final match between NYU and Chicago, and then afterwards we'll have NYU and Case Western Reserve University. This is Colin Lee Lerner for Chicago against Cade Steck Loney for NYU.
A lot of hyphens in those.
Yeah.
Good thing you're saying them.
This is the all hyphen match.
Yeah. So Lee Lerner was saw him compete out at the Pete Wilson. I think he was coming in there 7th maybe or 5th. And he's a good, solid, all-around wrestler. NYU wrestler. I haven't seen compete, but I do not believe this is their traditional or varsity 65. I think that'd be James Murdoch, who was not on the sheet, did not weigh in.
Who was out today.
Yeah. So again,
Cade Loney, freshman out of Long Valley, New Jersey. He has competed in 27 matches this year, 17-10. Colin Lee Lerner for Chicago, 19-7. Hasn't wrestled in a couple weeks. Lee Lerner last wrestled in that Pete Wilson invite you talked about, and boy, a great showing for him. 7th place, but 5-2.
Yeah, so
matches.
like I said, it's it's a brawl. I mean, you go through those, and most of his matches were 2 to 3 point decisions, I believe. That 165 weight class was pretty solid out there. He had a lot of tough kids. So Lee Lerner out of Baltimore, I think Latin boys. He's a junior.
He was the UAA champion at 165 last year, wrestling at that weight again this year.
So he did a nice little bear hug there. You could see him throws up, so he might have some Greco-Roman wrestling in his background there. Too many leg attacks for either of them, just both kind of going with that upper body on their feet. And so Lee Lerner goes with that crawl and that little crab. See, it's, basically it gets a 4 count there. You hearing that static there?
I think that's on your...
Oh, it's me? Okay. I'm the rookie when it comes to this. There you go, better probably. So Lee Lerner got a 4 count with that little crab ride and turn. And so he's got that leg in again. Here you go. Getting the match there, getting it back to break that 45 degree. He's doing that ankle ride. Not sure. Lets him go. So 6-1, 30 seconds left here in the first for Lee Lerner. So again, he's look at that little headlock action for Cade there.
So Loney will pick up a couple points.
Yeah, so basically 2 and 2, I believe. So takedown 2 back points. So puts him right back in the match, take the lead. So again, both these guys are choosing to go upper body, and Cade, the NYU wrestler, definitely has a height advantage. So.
Well, a terrific effort by Cade Loney in the first to come all the way back in really the last 10 seconds of that period.
Yeah, I mean, you can never let your guard down. Never let your guard down. And, these programs and these coaches, I know they, basically are constantly coaching their wrestlers to keep competing through the whistle. So. Cade Loney chooses down, I believe. So. Lee Lerner doing that, again, that crab ride, trying to get in there and get that half in. So another 2 count for Lee Lerner, another 2 back points. And then he lets him go.
Loney able to crawl away.
Yeah.
Get back within 2.
So we'll see if Lee Lerner chooses to go after the legs.
They've both gone upper body.
Both upper body.
Match.
I don't think I saw one leg shot yet, so we'll see. You're blocking there. Cade Loney is in his head, using his head position is always very important when you're on your feet. And you're neutral. And so now Lee Lerner wants to probably try to take that into the headlock, snap down. You got to move a guy to get him out of his stance, get him out of his position, get in his feet. There's Mrs. DeMarco, see her on the screen for University of Chicago.
Lee Lerner trying to get some semblance of leverage on Cade Loney.
Yeah. So
there's your first leg.
Shot. There you go. That shot. So now Cade Loney tried to come in with the trip. He's got that Russian Lee Lerner out in front of him. You want to move him to, get to your position, head position, get to your shot.
Here, Bruce Haberly. Trying to get back to the center.
Yeah.
Instructing his wrestler, Cade Loney, the freshman for NYU. Boy, a really, really nice fight by Loney, working against a guy who, let's face it, is the favorite in this match.
Yeah.
UAA champion at this
so
weight class last
Lee
year.
Lerner chooses neutral, right? So maybe he has stuff on the top that. So now right to his leg. See, he gets right to his leg. He's got to pick that up or try to reach across. He needs to shelf that ankle. You often hear coaches say when you're on that single, you need to shelf it. So what that means, Andrew, is you're going to elevate that bottom part, put it on your, put it on your thigh, which is going to force that wrestler forward to try to, circle back around to get that other hip.
Chicago's won this meet, now up 32-3, and so they will wrestle third.
So you have a stalling warning on Cade Loney. I think that's the first one. So he does get this takedown. He can tie it up, I believe. I'm not sure riding time's the issue. So here we go. Again, there's same thing he did in the first, is that first takedown with Lee Lerner. He had a nice bear hug. Got his hips under him, did a bear hug, right to back. So 6-4, that's going to be 6-point move right there. He's going to go for the fall. And continue to do it. Tough there. So
now a minute left in the third.
Yeah.
NYU will wrestle Case next, and then Chicago will get Case in our third dual meet. And the Maroons with a major advantage, having taken the first team meet, the first dual meet today.
They came to wrestle today for sure. He gets off back, so it's a good job by the freshman to fight off his back. And whatever you could do, you never want to,
They'll give one to Lerner, to Lee Lerner.
Ooh, so hands to face. So we talked about that before. It's one of the first times I think I've seen it on the, on the bottom on mat wrestling. So I'm sure it was unintentional by Caden Lerner.
You see Leo Coker. We will talk to Leo coming up in the break between this dual meet and our next.
So we got a locking hands on Lee Lerner, so we're going to give up a penalty point. So
Callan Lee Lerner trying to
much like in football when guys caught holding locking hands for wrestlers are like, what, me?
And nobody thinks they're guilty.
Right. So Lee Lerner kicks him out. He's going to try to. He's already got the major decision if he doesn't let us soar. So now he's moving his feet, moving ahead. Get him in there. There you go, another bear hug, out of bounds, no points. Award it, 1.4 second. So, looks like that's how it's gonna end. Lee Lerner with the victory.
And this will do it. So Callan Lee Lerner picks up the win for Chicago in a meet in which Chicago won all but one.
They came out strong and they stayed strong. Yeah, so that's but hotly contested. They go out there and they battle, and that's what you want to see.
So number 24 ranked University of Chicago defeats number 17 ranked New York University 36-3.